Well, miracle on the ABC's Media Watch as host Paul Barry seems to side with my colleague Peter Credlin on the Uluru Statement from the Heart's length after her posts were slapped with a false label on Facebook. Have a look at what Paul Barry had to say last night.
The Uluru Statement is expressed on one page, but there are many more pages of notes and background, which it must be said the Australian public are not voting on, where matters like a treaty and reparations are raised. So, should Facebook have labelled her claim false? A spokesperson for Meta told Media Watch it wasn't us.
This fact check was applied by an independent fact checker and not Meta.
And that is true, but it was Meta that slapped it on. And given that there may be some point in what Credlin is saying, we think a disputed label would be more appropriate.
Wow. There you go. It's what we've been saying on this program, that Peter Credlin was right to say that the supporting documents on the Uluru Statement from the Heart run more than one page. It's a point that co-author of the Uluru Statement, Megan Davis, has made repeatedly as well. We showed you another comment from her last night. Now, all of this happened after Anthony Albanese repeatedly called this claim that the Uluru Statement was longer than one page a conspiracy. Have a look.
This is a ripper. That is the Uluru Statement from the Heart on an A4 bit of paper. Nothing exposes the falseness of the arguments being put by the No campaign than this conspiracy theory and nonsense. It's something that has been out there, like a whole lot of the QAnon theories. We have all sorts of conspiracy stuff out there. That is a conspiracy in search of a theory, Mr. Speaker. They're struggling to get their scares straight. I mean, what role did Marcia Langton play in the faking of the moon landing, Mr. Speaker?
And Megan Davis has repeatedly said, and in the comments that I played you last night, she said it's a one-page painting, that's what she called it, a painting that was signed by the Uluru authors, but the supporting documents, she says, run to 18 pages. And as I've been saying in this program, at the very least, this is a contested political point that shouldn't be censored by Facebook.
Story in the Australian last night, but in today's print edition, I want you to tell us a little bit about it, pertaining to an email from management I thought was pretty cheeky.
So in the front page of the Australian, Jack, today, I had a story where the ABC's management, one of their editorial managers, Mark Maley, and also ABC high-profile journalist Lee Sales, have put together this email to explain to staff that the Uluru Statement from the Heart is one-page document. They've put cold water over Peter Credlin's reporting and said it is false that it is 26 pages. So anyone who comes on ABC and says, it's more than one page, Lee Sales has written out a script for staff with exactly what they need to say if anyone tries to contest this. And so basically, the ABC are taking a view that the Uluru Statement is one page. Now, why is the public broadcaster taking a political view in a public debate? They're meant to be impartial. They're meant to be neutral. I suggest anyone who hasn't read the story to go to the Australian website today and check it out. I think this is really concerning. The ABC are dictating to staff how to handle debate and how to shut it down.
Yeah, two really interesting things that jump to my mind from that. First of all, they are taking a position in a political debate. So Peter Dutton says this is a real document, it exists, and it outlines across 26 pages the background and all this relevant information to the formation of the Uluru Statement to Heart. And Anthony Albanese disagrees. So the ABC has sided with Labor over this.
Are you surprised, Jack, though, that the ABC has sided with Labor?
Not at all.
And that is a big problem for them. And this is why people lose faith in the public broadcaster, because they take a partisan view.
And I'd also be interested in your thoughts on some of the rationale that they had with why it's not a document. I noticed there was a line there in your reporting about how they said the document is just minutes from meetings.
I thought that was just absolutely bizarre. It's factually not right. It's not meeting minutes, but they've put that out in the email. They've sent that to all staff. Now it's circulated to thousands of people in the ABC who are putting out content day in, day out. I think the ABC really did themselves a disservice. I think they'll be pretty unhappy this email was leaked to the Australian. And I think now every time we hear them on the radio, or Patricia Karvelis or any of the high-profile hosts, this issue comes up. Is she going to read Lee Sales' script word for word? I mean, that's embarrassing for the presenters and journalists themselves who are meant to be objective.
Yeah, and who's running it as well? I mean, does Lee Sales have the editorial authority to dictate to journalists how they field questions? And look, James, what do you think about the ABC clearly siding with Labor over a contested political debate?
Yeah, it's so, like, the ABC can come out and say, oh, it's just a helpful guide for journalists if they're ever in that position. But it's not. It is clearly a line. And pray for Paul Barry next time he's in the ABC cafeteria. Now, there's a specific call to action. He must be corrected. Like, people are going to be crash tackling him from to the ground, trying to say, actually, that's not how you need to report on the Uluru Statement. So it is, because of the way this debate is going, it is now a political issue. The ABC are saying one side of this is correct, one side of this is incorrect and must be corrected at any point of any time it comes up. That's every side of politics is funding the ABC. No matter what party you vote for, you're helping fund the ABC. And the ABC is saying for 50% of you, on two-party preferred, 50% of you, we are not going to entertain how you think about things. We are going to enforce the one line.
Yeah, and Sophie, what do you think the view is from the reporters on the ground who kind of get this, I would argue, a very condescending marching orders that you have to interpret this way, this is the ABC stance? Why does the ABC have a stance on a debate at all?
Well, they shouldn't have a stance, Jack. And there is an undercurrent at the ABC of people who are not happy with these high-profile journalists running the ABC. David Anderson is the top dog. The buck stops with him. This is really problematic. But I will point out, Paul Barry, as James said, he said on Media Watch this week that Peter Credlin's reporting that the Uluru Statement was 26 pages should have been marked as disputed, not false information. So points to Paul Barry for saying this is debatable. It is a debate.
Well, I've reviewed the doc, sequentially numbered. It has contextual continuity with page 1. It's numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 26. It does not contain minutes from meetings. It's formally referenced, a proper document. To say that it's not a document, it's titled the Uluru Statement to Heart, is absolutely absurd.
Hi Australia, my name is Teela Reid. I was part of the constitutional dialogue process.
Teela has been there in the heart of creating a framework for rethinking our constitution.
Referendum engagement group member Teela Reid.
You have all these remarkable people like Thomas Mayer and Teela Reid.
We have to understand this concept of the voice is the first step in redistributing power.
There does need to be these tough decisions and reparations for what First Nations peoples have lost. This notion of reconciliation, it's not enough.
The voice isn't ready. We begin to demolish the system that continue to oppress us.
All these remarkable people.
What we need is to get back to these radical roots of the Communist Party. It's going to be very difficult once we succeed for a government to ignore this voice. It will be powerful.
Authorised by Matthew Sheehan, Advance Australia, Canberra.
The people who stand with me on this stage, I regard as giants.
Thomas Mayo.
Thomas Mayo written a handbook called the Voice to Parliament Handbook. All the detail you need.
Thomas Mayo is a signatory to the Uluru Statement from the Heart, but was also entrusted with the physical document.
Mayo is part of the Referendum working group.
He spent 18 months travelling around Australia to garner support for an Indigenous voice to Parliament.
And I tell you what, we are sick of governments not listening to our voice. We are going to use the rule book of the nation to force them.
There is nothing more powerful than building a First Nations voice, a black institution, a black political force to be reckoned with.
Keep going until we change the system, until we tear down the institutions that harm our people.
And also to pay respects to the elders of the Communist Party, who I think, without a doubt, have played a very important role in our activism.
You know, this is the first step. It's a vital step. Pay the rent, for example. You know, how do we do that in a way that is transparent and that it actually sees reparations and compensation to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people?
The power in the voice is that it creates the ability for First Nations to go forth with coherent,
positions on what legislation needs to be created, what legislation needs to be amended, and punish politicians that ignore our advice.
This is a modest request.
Authorised by Matthew Sheehan, Advance Australia, Canberra.